Welcome back. More Americans are out and about traveling this holiday weekend. Good news for small businesses across the country trying to get back on their feet after a big pandemic hit. But the largest advocacy group for U.S. small business is sounding the alarm about yet another big threat coming. The National Federation of Independent Business is launching what it calls a survival campaign against Biden's tax policies and mandates being negotiated this week with Republican lawmakers. I'm joined right now by National Federation of Independent Business President and CEO Brad Close. Brad, it's great to have you this weekend. Thanks very much for joining us. We've been talking a lot about the Biden administration's spend and tax plans. Tell me about the threat coming to small business and its impact.
Well, thanks, Maria. Yeah, we are really concerned. The reason NFIB is launching our survival campaign for small businesses is we really want to protect them from these massive tax increases, new rules, mandates, and regulations that are coming out of Washington. I think it's amazing for small business owners to think that Washington believes that these new proposals won't hurt small businesses, but the effect of them is going to be to grind to a halt a very fragile small business recovery.
You know, I mean, it's interesting because you've got the same rules for big, medium, and small, right? I mean, it's the same regulatory framework, whether you're talking about, you know, a small business catering to a lot fewer customers than, say, for example, a JP Morgan or a Bank of America or, you know, Procter and Gamble. I mean, when you look at some of these big companies, they have the wherewithal to hire lawyers, hire accountants, get the wherewithal that they need to deal with these new regulations. But small businesses don't. So they're going to be faced with the same tax increases, but a lot bigger fines and impact than a larger business, right?
Yeah, you know, Washington tends to lose sight that when you're talking about taxes, regulations, they really impact small business owners very differently. And having a one-size-fits-all policy just doesn't work for the little guys. You know, most small businesses, our typical member is 5 to 10 employees. They're run by an owner and a spouse, family-run business. They do all the regulatory work themselves. They may have an accountant, they may have a lawyer they work with, but they do all that stuff. And it's impossible for them to keep track of all the rules and regulations that come out of Washington. And then if you want to throw on a bunch of new tax increases on there, just when they tell us that they're ready to hire and grow, it's going to be awful. And I think Washington tends to lose sight of the impact of their proposals on the little guys.
So tell me about your campaign and about the most onerous taxes and regulations that are coming down the pike.
When you look at the tax increases that are proposed right now, basically they're proposing a whole new second estate tax, the death tax, that will reach even more small businesses, more farms, more individuals than are currently hit. You look at the top marginal rates, you know, the administration is proposing to increase the top rates. That's going to ensnare even more small businesses. And then there are about 1 million C Corps out there that are really small businesses. And they're going to see under this proposal about a 33% increase in their taxes. That's not going to help anyone, and it's really going to harm a small business recovery.
So, I mean, when you harm the small business recovery, you end up impacting the American population. I mean, what do small businesses typically do when they're faced with higher expenses from higher taxes and higher fees?
Yeah, well, I think Washington always tends to think that small business owners are kind of like sitting on a pot of money, right? There's a closet in the back that has a pile of money that will fund any new regulation, any mandate, but that's not true, you know? So to create a new job, they have to have revenue coming in, right? So when you have a new mandate, a new expense from Washington put on them, they have to make tough choices. That can be raise prices, awfully hard to do right now. It can be to cut back hours of employees, not create a new job, or it can also mean that they have to let employees go. All things that harm an economic recovery really hurt job growth. And when you look at kind of job growth and the impact on the economy, the small business impact is huge. We create half the new jobs and half the economic growth in this country. So this is something that Washington tends to overlook, and it'll really hurt small businesses as we go forward here.
Well, you're right. The money has to come from somewhere. Small business owners have to make a choice. Should I take on more employees or cut employees? Faced with higher costs, we know what typically happens. Brad, it's great to get your take on all of this. Thanks so much. We'll be looking at your campaign and following it. NFIB President and CEO Brad Close. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Maria.
Don't go anywhere. More Wall Street right after this.